Hi, I'm Liz Sargent Tan and I'm playing Anne in the 4th trimester.
Hi, I'm Hong-hui. I'm the founder and clinical director of the Psychology Atelier, and I'm a clinical psychologist, a wife, and a mother.
I'm not a wife yet. I'm not a mom either. But that's kind of what we're here to talk about today, isn't
Yes,
it?
we're going to dive straight into what does it mean for a woman to be parents, I guess, and how is parenting like, and how is parenting for a Singaporean woman like in our context today.
Gosh, that's a lot. Where should we start? Okay, actually, maybe I should talk about my audition process for the 4th trimester. It was really funny because it came so randomly. I was like, oh, yes, checkboard, let's go. I read for the part, and then I start talking about having kids, like the possibility of, and what I think about having children. I think I yapped at you for like 20 minutes straight. And then you were like, yeah, tell me more. And I was just like yapping about kids, about having kids, my thoughts about having kids. Then we did the scene again and it felt really good. And then I got a text saying, hey, you want to be Anne? So that's how I ended up in this position here. But yeah, kids. Where do we start with kids?
I watched fourth trimester 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and at that time, I remember I went with another psychologist friend.
Okay.
And both of us was just struck by how, like in a way, mundane the conversations were. But because of that, those conversations really hit us because we are both mothers. And it's so difficult to go on a show and to see that the show just detail the kinds of words and sentences you actually speak to your family members.
Yeah.
And so it felt really moving, emotional and also confronting at the same time. Yeah, and I went back home and I was just kind of like recalling the scenes as well as connecting that to my own personal experience of being a mom as well.
It
Which
must
was
have hit
like,
quite differently for you.
I
'cause you're a
know,
mom, yeah.
yes, because a lot of these things happen behind closed doors. Like sometimes when you go out and you talk to your friends and you update about how motherhood is like, it's a very cursory kind of statement. You kind of like sum it up, you know.
Yeah.
But then going to watch the show, you really open that door and you kind of get a glimpse of that privacy of how it's like to be parents. Yes.
Of it all.
Yes.
Yeah. That's crazy. No, that's actually something I really like about the script as well. It doesn't shy away from the problems.
Yeah.
Which I think is what I feel like when you're growing up, this idea of having children, if you're growing up as a woman, this idea of having children is sort of like this beautiful fantasy. Like, grow up, have babies, like meet someone you love, have children.
Yeah.
But then you get older and you get older and you get older and you realize it's really not as easy as anyone makes it look. And actually there should be a lot more thought that goes into having children or this. Why do we want children? Like, why do we want kids? Essentially was the question I asked myself for a very long time. Because I think I really respect the women who like they hit adulthood and they're like, oh, I want children, 100%. Or I don't want children, 100%. Me, in the middle, for like 10 years. 10 years deciding, do I want kids or not?
Yes.
And eventually over time, I realized my list for having children was much shorter than my list for not having children. Like I had so many reasons
Right.
not to have kids versus the reasons to have kids. And I'm curious, did you overthink it to death like I did? Or like was this more of a natural thing for you when you wanted to have children?
I think like some girls or some women, right? They might have an idea about, okay, you know, in the future, I must get married, I must find a partner, and I'm going to be a mom. And I must say, for a very long time in my life, my decision was that I was going to be independent just on my own. You know, the part about whether I wanted to have children or not, I was more like, maybe. And then I got into my profession and then I got to work with people and then I got to hear their childhood and things like that. So, you know, like, I mean, you kind of, in a way, it's a privilege because you kind of have a fast forward and to see like, oh, okay, at this point in their life, this is how they are. And, you know, when we reverse back the time, this was how their childhood experience was and how the kind of parenting experiences they had. Yeah, so those were the things that were on my mind. So such that when I was dating my husband now, boyfriend then, there was this caveat. You know, maybe I might not want to have children. Is this something that you are okay with? And you know, for us to proceed to the next step. Yeah. So I think then it was only after getting married, you know, we really took the pressure off ourselves. Then when we felt ready, then we decided to have children.
That's good.
Yeah,
No,
so it
that's
was
really good.
Very much a process. Yeah.
That you guys talked about and you discussed, and you knew from the start that you might not want to have them. Yeah, that's something similar for me and Nathan as well. I basically said, I don't know if I want to have kids. I feel like that's something you really do have to talk about with a partner before like you start getting really serious. It's like, I might not ever want to, and you have to be okay with it, because otherwise this can't work. But now, how old are your girls?
My girls are 1 7 and 1 5.
Oh my gosh, that's small.
Yeah.
That's crazy though. That's crazy. Because I feel like you and me are probably around the same age.
I don't think we are
We
the
won't
same
say
age.
we won't say what that same age is, whatever the age may be. But I'm getting to the point of my age where people around me who are parents, they're my age now. Like they're adults. I'm an adult.
Yeah.
I'm a childless adult. I have cats. You can hear him crying in the corner. Okay.
So has it like changed for you in terms of your idea about whether you want to be a mom for you?
I don't know if the pendulum is going to swing the other way, but right now the pendulum is really stuck in the don't have kids corner.
Right.
Like really stuck there and it's something that it was so weird. For the longest time, I thought if I didn't want to have kids, it was like a bad opinion to have. It was like not a good thing. Like, oh, I don't want to have kids. I must not be very maternal, or I must not be very feminine. But then I did more research. I thought a lot more. I talked a lot with people who were like me, either in the arts or people who don't have regular steady jobs, which would provide a more stable environment for a child. So I talked to people like me, creatives or queer, or neurodivergent, or all three. And I came to a conclusion that actually, no, I'm good where I am. I'm good at this point of my life making this decision because I've really thought about it to a point where I don't think a lot of people think about it, because I've considered so many things. I've considered the cost of it. Who hasn't considered the cost of having a kid? And anyone who's a kid in this room will be like, yeah, expensive, right? Yeah, and it only get more expensive because of inflation. That's one. Of course, that's one thing you thought about. It's not even interesting. Let's move right past that. The time, I think, and I can't really talk for you because I'm not a Singaporean mom raising young children in this city. But I can only imagine that it would just take up so much of your time that you barely even also get for yourself. That was a huge consideration. I need a lot of time to maintain my health, like my brain health. I have ADHD. I'm very high up in the ADHD as well. I've got I'm on 99th percentile on the diagnostics, so she knows. And that means that I need a lot more time than a regular person to organize my life, to organize my career, to keep my house clean even. I require more time than the average person to do things that they might do a lot faster than me. I can't imagine having a kid in that equation as well. Sometimes I barely get out of the door. What if I have a kid? Throw the kid over the door, run out. And there's also the fact that if I had a kid, they would also most likely have ADHD. I'm pretty sure it's genetic. So, and all my siblings have it. My dad has it. My cousins have it. Sorry to out you on the podcast, but so yeah, that would be the added complication of likely having a child with neurodivergent issues. And I didn't get the support I needed when I grew up. Like in the small chance that I have a child spontaneously within the next 3 years, unlikely, I would try and make sure that they had the support I didn't have when I was growing up. But I know that my neurodivergence really factors into whether I would want kids or not. Also my lifestyle. And and also the, what was I gonna say? You have to really want it, right? Like you really have to want having kids. Like 100% willing to go through all of the mess.
I'm not
and the
sure whether
nonsense.
it can be so binary.
Simple?
Yeah, I'm
Wish
not
it was,
sure whether it
it'd
can
be
be so
easier
binary.
that way,
I think most of the time, a lot of people, even if they decide that they want to have children, there will still be some maybe seeds of doubt.
Of course, right? That's not only human.
Yeah, and it's really. I mean, we can sit there and we can Google and do all the research to try to see how parenting is going to be like. But the truth is, when you are actually on the journey itself, you find that there are so many things that you never thought of, and so many things that you thought of before doesn't happen as well. And then you realize that all the thinking that you have done, all the catastrophization that you have done, was just such a waste of time.
Story of my life.
Yeah. So
worry for what?
So I think like for myself, I can't speak for other people, but for myself, it was kind of like me moving along the spectrum. And even after you come to this point where it feels good enough for you to take the leap of faith to decide that, okay, we are going to try to be parents, try to have a child, there will still be, time in the day where you kind of like fluctuate on the scale as well. Sometimes you are more sure, sometimes you are less sure. When you are more stressed, you are less sure. When you are less stressed, you are more sure, that sort of thing.
Yeah, but
right?
you cannot back out though, because at that point the kids are already there.
Yes. And for myself, I'm someone like, if I make a commitment for something, I really have to do it. I can't, it's very difficult for me to shirk that responsibility, right? So it takes a lot for me to decide that, okay, I'm going to make that commitment. And for me, it was just imagining I don't see children as inconveniences or burdens, but I see them as, it's very, very hard work.
Just in case you're wondering.
Not to imply that, but certainly like a huge amount of hard work and hard work, right? So like, do I have the capacity for that? So it's not just about whether I have enough money. It's about whether I think my partner is going to be in this together, to be on the same page, try to be on the same page, at least have a conversation. Right? And whether I have the emotional capacity to do that. Yeah. And I think that's a very important starting point. It should not be, we want to have children because we want to try to like right some wrong,
something weird like that.
Yes.
Which I feel like a lot more people think before they have kids than I would like.
They might, and so I think like for yourself, you think so much about yourself, and you are like, you go through these processes where you are thinking about what feels right for you, what are your needs. That's a very important and good starting point, because I think the best place for us to be ready to be parents, or to care for another person for that matter, is when we are aware of how we feel about ourselves, and we try to be comfortable with where we are now. Not to say that this is a done job, but that we are in that process, and we are constantly trying to check in to calibrate along the way.
A state of responsiveness, like being able to respond in the way that you like. I feel like so much of having children is like wrapped up in a heterosexual fantasy of life, which I think, like, our culture, it shoves a lot of images of like happiness being bound up in a man and a woman having children. Like, so much of our modern idea of happiness boils down to this nuclear heterosexual family of 2 kids, 3 kids, mother, father, grandparents. And when you are not ideally fitting into that world, like maybe you're not part of the racial majority, or you're not heterosexual, or you just are disillusioned by whatever is being provided to you as this ideal life. And then I think that brings a lot of doubt with it, because you wonder if you're the person who's in the wrong, who doesn't want kids, and then you're the one who's fucked up, instead of this image itself being... I find this image very rigid and not very supportive of humanity in its true form, which I think is community-based. Like, I really feel a lot for mothers these days, because in our modern lives, our lives are so stratified, so isolated. It's not like you could drop off your kid, hey sis, who lives right next to me in my village, take my child for a day. I need to go yell in the forest, or I'm gonna die of stress. Like, you couldn't just, take my child. Not to say that you can still do these things, but you're not gonna just randomly leave your child with some person you don't know, because the bonds that we have as community, they're not as strong as before because of our capitalistic, very individualistic lifestyles. So when I realized that it wasn't like a personal fault of mine for not wanting to have kids in this society, versus like I'm the one at wrong, I felt like that was a lot easier for me to move from, like, emotionally speaking, and also just like have conversations with people about, because I'm not... one of the fun things about discovering you're neurodivergent is that once you make one neurodivergent friend, you realize either all your friends are neurodivergent, or you just really click with a lot of people who are like that. So my flavor particularly is ADHD, but I have friends who are autistic, I have friends who deal with anxiety, I have friends with all sorts of things. And once I accepted the fact that I'm not deeply flawed for not wanting to have children as a womb haver, I was able to have all these conversations, which was so illuminating, about this idea of having kids. Because until you actually have the child, like, until you actually... It's a big, like, what if question, before the reality even comes into play and the actual child rearing comes into play. There's so much like, what if my child is like me? What if my child isn't like me? What if I raise my children like my parents raised me? Or it depends, because I feel like a lot of what influences you to have children is also how your own environment was growing up. So going back to those conversations with my friends, I realized that I wasn't a freak for thinking this way, and that I was really surprised at how many people also thought the way I thought, because I always thought I was a bit, at least in my younger years, I thought I was maybe a bit defective for feeling like completely repulsed by having children for so many reasons. But it turns out if you deal with anxiety on a regular basis, having a child just ramps that up to 1,000, because not only are you responsible for yourself, now you're responsible for a young thing that can't take care of it. And I know you said like 90% of those times the worries don't come true. But there's still 10%.
But it doesn't mean that you can switch it off.
Exactly, you can't switch it off, because and that's another thing. Once you have that child, you can't just, oh, I'm done.
Yeah.
You can't leave. And that is one of the hugest reasons why I'm like, I don't want to have to find out when I have the kid. You know, I'd rather just like be reassured in my not wanting to have it now versus having the child and being like, oh, I regret this. Return to sender. Oh, I'm the sender.
I think for myself, I have two sets of relatives, and to some extent, you might call them the more typical kind of Singaporean Chinese family and culture. And for example, I have been closer to one side, and on that side, the women have this they see themselves as supportive of their husband, right? So they play a supportive role to the husband, and they mainly then handle the caregiving role. So the men were they were in charge of like earning money, bring money back.
A traditional setup.
Yeah, pretty traditional setup. And so my grandma, my ama, when she realized that I was going to go into university and that after that I was not going to stop, I was going to go for my postgrad as well. Then she looked at me and said, like in her dialect, right? Like, why? You know? then I was like, I look at my ama, you know, so she was, my ama wasn't the kind like she would like heavily impose on you, but she expressed her concern in this kind of like 1 or 2 word manner. And I said, why not? And he was like, yeah, girls no need to study so much.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I
was like,
the attitude.
Yeah, you know,
it's
so
still alive.
But having said that, I must say that this side of the family, they were not those who said that, oh, you know, you are a girl, hence we should not be offering these opportunities to you. So there was there were plenty of opportunities for me to be who I was. Yeah. So I just like, I said, why not? You know, this is what I want to do. Then she said, okay lah, like that. So that was the end of it, right?
That's nice.
Yeah. So, but I think then, when I had the aspirations to want to pursue what I wanted to pursue for myself, and I saw myself as quite a different woman than how the role models of women were like in my family. Meaning to say, I think since young I was much more assertive. You know, I was much more willing and able also to express myself. I think that there were some clashes, and then when I had my own daughters, and one of my daughters has a temperament that is very much like mine, and I see how my relatives, my family, then you know, like try to shape her in a way which I experienced as a child.
That's so weird to see.
Yeah, so it's very confronting. I must say, it's very triggering, but very illuminating as well. And I think then for me as a psychologist, then a mom, I could totally see, okay, there's this textbook version, and then there's a real life version.
Okay.
And in a way, that parenting process, being a mother and then seeing my daughter, makes textbook come alive for me.
Fascinating.
And very confronting. And so it's not just something that you go into the office, then you practice. You now like, hey, you better practice it. Yeah. You know, you better really practice what you are learning to do.
If she's anything like you, then she'll stubborn through lah.
She'll be okay. She is very assertive, and her favorite virtue is assertiveness too. So
I respect that.
Yes.
I respect that. Yeah.
So I on the one, when I encounter my daughter, on the one hand, one part of me is like the 7-year-old. Okay. Yeah. So one part of me is like, wow, I admire you. Yeah. I can see you, but I also try my best to not then see her as a replica of myself. She's not. She's herself. And at the same time, another part of me, the young part of me that can connect with my daughter, then feels sometimes like grief for the experiences. That I wish it could have been different for me. And sometimes I'm like, I wish I had a mother.
myself for my mom.
Why is it so unfair?
That's really
but okay, saying all this now, this is just one slice of the experience. Anyway, there were other aspects as well. Yeah, so I think is that kind of like, how do I kind of take the good of what I experienced as a child? I think there were a lot of that as well. To be grateful and to see that I could be grateful and I could be upset at the same time, for different things.
Actually, what I was going to say is that it's really that feeling of having two feelings about the same thing. That is for me a sign of like increased emotional awareness and compassion for you as a person, but also as for that young person.
Yeah, but I mean that's so astute, right? To be able to make space for different feelings at the same time, and sometimes more than two parts at the same time.
Also, sometimes beyond yourself, because like I have a lot of wishes for my young child self. I think that's part of course, like you're a psychologist. This like inner child healing is more than just some kind of woo. It really is like having compassion for the person who became who you were, but the person who wasn't able to defend themselves or know what they needed or know what kind of care they needed. They were just trying to survive as a child, because that's just how we all grow up, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
With different luck, I think. But it's really nice that you can have that compassion for your daughter, because like I think so much of what I think is difficult for people to reckon with is that we really are so much formed by our young childhood experiences. And unless we discover the compassion to understand ourselves as children, but also our parents' position, then we are very likely to repeat the whole cycle over again. My father grew up as the middle child of 7 kids total. His mother was very busy taking care of the entire house. So they grew up in a nursery on Clementi Road. Some of you might know it, Corona Nursery. It was like there for ages. It was my grandfather so my grandfather was the one my dad's grandfather was the one who started that. And he had a bit of an alcohol problem. So the story that I've heard, I've never heard it from him. I heard it from an ex of his. My dad's father would come home, start drinking, and start being like very verbally abusive to everybody. So from one parent, he got very little. He got alcohol problems. And from another parent, she was very loving, but didn't really have the time to focus on a child. And then apparently back then, the punishments were getting into trouble, and they got into a lot of trouble. I think at one point they found an undetonated World War II bomb, or World War I bomb in the region of the farm somewhere. But like some of the punishments they would have, like, and my dad would very casually say this, when you messed up, and they rub chili padi in your eye. And I'm like listening to this going like, oh my God, that's child abuse. So having a childhood like that, and then having my childhood, my father never beat me. My father never like verbally abused me. And considering the kind of childhood he had, that's already like a huge improvement. But I think that's the work that you do as parents, or even as someone who's like aware to this kind of problem, is that generation by generation, you can only hope to do somewhat better than your own parents. And even just being aware already helps you like move it in a different direction.
Yeah.
It's and my mom, she also had a bit of a difficult childhood. We suspect that my grandmother had bipolar, which is also genetic, by the way, guys. Be careful. But yeah, and I feel like you can do that kind of generational change work, not just by being a parent. Of course, it's very obviously when you are raising the new generation that's where that generational work happens for you as a parent, for yourself, but also for your kids. But if you don't have kids, where are you in that part of process, right? Like, how do you give back this desire to make things better for the next generation because in some way you had a lack when you were growing up? Like, I think that might be a nice place to take our next.
Yeah, I think what you said showed that you also have compassion for the previous generation. I mean, I'm a trained psychologist and I try to practice what I do, but I am in no way wanting and trying to paint the picture that I'm like a saint, you know, like I'm a human being and I have times when I get triggered as well, triggered very much as well. I lose my temper as well. And I think, you know, growing up, there were some things, not everything, but some things that happened that I found it difficult to reconcile as an adult. Still sometimes trying to work through those issues as well. But when I became a parent and when I was put in that difficult position of having to hold myself so that I do not let my emotions spill over to lash out on the kid, then I found myself in this position where I was like, oh, was I that child, and was my mom or my dad or my grandma like what I'm going through now? And I kind of like, you know, it's part of like maybe a little bit guilty that, oh, perhaps I was being difficult, but also at the same time of like trying to be more understanding and more compassionate for what my caregivers also were experiencing.
Caregiving is
hard.
Yeah.
And given that that was the amount of information they had then,
Yeah,
you know,
not
the
very
research.
much at all. Yeah.
Yes, and my mom read parenting books, but at that time, what was available was a very behavioral. It was about like punishment and rewards, how that shape behavior, you know, and the science, I mean the research about childhood has progressed so much then, and I don't think we really know everything at the moment
the books
as well.
take time to catch up to the research. Right?
Exactly, and also you can read so much, you can Google so much, you can do so much research, but they are just words on paper,
They
on
don't
screens.
affect, how you actually
Until you actually sit down and until you really think through this and you ask yourself, how does this play out in your own life? And you can start to connect your personal experiences, not in an intellectual fashion, but in a way that is connecting with your emotional experience to the words. The words are still words.
Meaningless.
So you can read so much, but you that's why people find that they cannot practice that, because they have not connected that to their own personal experience.
It's also because they're very far removed from a cultural aspect of parenting. I think also that how you would learn in the past would be you look at how the people around you raise their children.
Exactly.
And if you don't have that very immediate, like, oh, that's how you, when a child is crying, what do? You don't scold them. You pick them up and you're like, okay, let's go somewhere and calm down.
Yeah.
If you don't see that and you read it in the book, you're like,
yeah.
but the child's very angry, how do I pick it up?
Say,
you know,
this sounds like a good idea, but then when it actually happens, you go back to the automatic, because I mean, like when you talk about how our childhood shapes us, then
the automatic is what you experience.
Exactly, and that's what we call attachment. You see, attachment is a very special class of close relationships where it really starts with that bond that we have even when we are in the womb of our mother, and then with our biological parents, you know, then whoever were very intensely involved in caregiving for us as well. A very special kind of relationship that really then starts to shape how our brains develop, right? In terms of
I've read all the Instagram stuff.
So you know, so it's like kind of like providing a template for how
very much so,
we experience different emotions, how we regulate our needs, and how we respond in interpersonal situations, manage stress, etc., right? So that's how it's like, and so when we are confronted in a relationship situation, not just with our child, but you know, could be with our partner as well. Yes, our parents. It just lights up.
It's automatic.
It's implicit, and sometimes we don't even know it's happening because it's implicit. Right? It just happens, and that's how powerful the parenting is, you know, to shape. So I think when you know about these things, right, it feels very daunting.
It's huge. It's a total change of perspective.
Yeah.
It's like really like totally like, oh.
You mean I can do so much damage? Right?
I mean, that too, but like also good.
And you know what? It's not just the extreme end of the situation, because a lot of the times what we don't talk about so much is something that's more insidious, more unspoken, what we are blind to. It can be as subtle as you fall down and I say, no pain, just like that. But the parents' intention is good. You know, I don't want my child to be dwelling on that. I want my child to move on. But then you have many of these instances adding up together to form that becomes like a pattern, right? That starts to shape a person. But I mean, like, okay, let's turn it the other way too. Okay, so when I when I had my second daughter,
Uh-huh.
with the first experience, and then so the second experience kind of can write on the benefit of the first experience.
yeah.
And I was like pretty present at the time because it was COVID time, and I was on maternity leave, and I had decided to leave my workplace then. So I was like, let's not care about a pump schedule anymore.
Okay.
You want to drink, you drink. Anytime
Okay.
you want to
Okay.
drink,
How
you
did that
drink.
work?
Oh, brilliant.
Brilliant?
Because there's so much stress taken off.
Yeah.
And so my daughter was so attached to me. And then I remember we were visiting some relatives, and she was like feeling uncomfortable, and so she was starting to cry. And then the moment I came to her and I just touched her, she instantly calmed down. You know, at the moment I was like,
oh my God, I would have cried. I would have cried. I'd be
That
like, I
is
imagine
the
hands.
power.
My baby.
Yeah, that's the power of
Yeah.
giving a secure attachment to
Yeah.
a child. Yeah, but yeah.
Oh, that's really incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Because
Yeah.
like that's actually, and that goes back to this whole lifestyle thing about motherhood and stuff. Like the ideal is that you have all that time to just be with your baby, and
Yeah.
that you are being supported. That all your work is being done just by being there with the child, taking care of the kid.
Yeah.
And someone ideally is taking care of you also.
Yes.
Like this is what I feel is such a huge difficulty for
Yes.
women. Because like our society is still deeply sexist. It's still really capitalist. Women are valued less than men. Which just turns into this really weird recursive thing when you like the children, the women are bearing the children who are the most valuable part of our next generation. It's so backward that we don't get more time to be with kids. Even now, paternity leave just got extended, right? That's good, but ideally there should be more time for all these. It's such a delicate time to be with. I'm amazed that you had that experience in COVID. Like just like nothing, just baby and you. Like it must have felt crazy.
In a way, yes. And I mean, that whole experience was very complex because then I mean, like, then, you know, we had a circuit breaker as well. So I had my toddler, and then I was pregnant. And then, like, that time we didn't have access to our relatives anymore. My parents, who were very involved in caring for my elder daughter at the time. But I think for us then, because we had to be cut off from the outside world, and there was this space where we realized that, oh, we could actually handle the housework and the cooking and all these things on our own. And there was almost like a sense of liberation that came from that, because it's like, I'm not dependent on this kind of like help. I can go on with the basics of life in this way. But I will tell you, so when I was carrying my first child, I had this fantasy that you know, I'm a modern woman. It's going to be 50-50.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be 50-50. My husband would have to be involved.
Okay.
It will be balanced.
Okay.
Yeah. Then comes the reality.
Of course.
Yeah. The reality is that biologically, we carry our child. Our child has such an intimate proximity with us, right? And as much as the father, the man wants to come in, sometimes the child just prefers
It's because normally you start with the mom.
Yeah.
And then the dad comes in later.
Yes. Right? So that was really hard for me to deal with, because on the one hand,
You also wanted a break, right?
Yeah.
Don't cry. Go.
Why am I being punished for doing a good job? Why? I'm doing such a good job and I want a break, and my child still wants me.
Because of that good secure attachment, you did too good a job.
I was not happy with that, you know. And sometimes you can't help but feel frustrated or resentful.
Because you just want to take a nap.
Yes. And for me, I must say my saving grace or my privilege was that because I studied the topic attachment, and I was like, you know,
doing a good job, doing a good job.
Yeah, so kind of like using that as like almost like my secure base to tell me that, okay, you know, this is heading in the right direction, even though I'm not happy, you know.
But that's normal, right? You can't have a perfect emotional journey with children.
No,
it's impossible.
No. And then there was that struggle between how to be as present a mom as possible, and at the same time, how do I retain my personal...
Your individuality.
Yes,
like you
my
before
space.
mom.
That's
before
right.
Mother, yeah.
Yes, and how to juggle, work, all these things as well.
I genuinely, I am amazed at any woman who has young children and also a job. I genuinely don't know how they do it. Like my mom, she had 3 kids. I'm the middle child, only girl. There's a 7-year gap between my older brother and a 4-year gap between my younger brother. She had her last kid when she was 42. Me at 38 and my brother at 31. So she was full into her career, right? When she had my older brother, she had moved from the US to establish herself in Singapore. This white lady who does theatre. Very little English scene in that part of the time. There was very little English theatre going on that wasn't done by expats. There wasn't a sense of a united English Singaporean theatre yet. And I always wondered, like, how did she do it? Like, how did she raise 3 kids, having a full-time career? And I know how she did it. She was really stressed out. She was a workaholic and she was busy, busy, busy. Like, she had so many identities. Mother to us, like teacher, guider, educator, actor, director. She had all these roles. And it's sort of like, have you ever heard of this saying that the reason why Hamlet is such an interesting character is because he has lots of different people who know him? Like, I think that's one of the complexities of being a woman and also a mother. Your children know you as one thing. Your classmates know you as another. Your family knows you. How do you reconcile all of that? And I imagine that when you were isolated during COVID, it was very weird to not have your career, like, being there for you or not having, you know what I mean? Like, all suddenly, I'm just a mom.
Yeah.
Like, how do you balance that when the child becomes older? Like, how do you return to work while balancing that?
I'm not sure whether balance can...
Balance, this word again.
Yeah, it feels sometimes an added pressure, but it's almost like... So I was very much a planner. I think anybody who knew me would see me as a very, very much an organizer.
Can't relate, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but then when I gave birth to my child, right, then suddenly I look at the screen and I was like, okay, what do I type here? My brain felt empty.
Wow.
Right? Yeah, and I kind of knew intuitively I could still pretty much function, but like, okay,
Maybe
where's
you
that?
should rest.
You know, that kind of thing. And then so it was challenging in that way. So I had to go through that process, and then realizing that, you know what, that previous approach to plan.
It's not going to fly with a child.
It doesn't work very well. Yeah, it doesn't. Because you can't put a child on the schedule.
No, you can't.
It's very misguided. Yeah. Like, you're going to hit this milestone, this age. Well, because every child is very different. So then it becomes more like a week-by-week basis, then down to a day-by-day basis. Down to an hour-by-hour basis. Okay, 1 week, okay, now it's milk time. And then let's see how...
That's very interesting though, that the way a child has this ability to pull you out of like any preconceived notions and like really literally pull you into the present, because right now they're figuring out how to walk, how to talk, how to say mommy, how to like, they're just, and if you look away for a second, 20 minutes, they're different.
Yeah.
They're so raw.
And to fight it is quite futile as well.
Very futile,
because the brain just changes for you to be as present and to be as like switched on to the cues of the child as possible.
Some people call it mommy brain. Is that true?
Yeah.
Is that a real thing that happens?
Yes, I think it can manifest in different ways for different people. Yeah, for me then I realized that when I look at my screen, I was like, okay, I'm not very sure what I typed there. I can keep to my deadlines and everything, but that I could very viscerally feel how it was like in my brain and my body was very different.
All the time. Yeah.
I wouldn't say I was thinking about my baby.
Just like everything.
I was not. I wasn't like obsessing over my baby as well. But for me at that time, it was just about like, okay, I have work, I have my home to take care of, I have these different roles I need to play, and I'm a mom. How do I organize myself in a way where I am able to get through all these things again and again and again and
when you figure that out, let me know, because I have the same problem except without the mom. So. Yeah, but yeah, it's just like, it's incredible how much work you have to do just to like not only mentally rebuild yourself and rebuild your schedule, rebuild your routine, but also like adapting to how everyone views you differently now. Like, you're now a mom. Like, good job, SG60 give you money. Yeah, gosh. One of the things that like, when I came closer to my decision of not having children, one of the things that really like, I really respected women who could do it, or who chose to do it despite knowing that in this world sometimes it's very difficult to have kids. And it made me more resolute to like do what I could in a sense to help the next generation, which I think for me lies a lot with doing work for children or like theatre work or education, because like it's not really a whole village. Like
Yeah.
of course, mom is so important, and dad is important, family, but
Yeah.
it's also the values that we get inculcated with when we are children, education wise, like what we're exposed to creatively. But yeah, good job on doing the work. Like, yeah, no, for real. Like, I cannot.
I'm really just one of the many moms out there, and I think sometimes like women, because of the pressure that we feel, we kind of it's never easy, right? It's never easy because it can be so stressful and so activating. Like, you know, the childhood experiences you have, they necessarily will have to come online in order for you to be relating to this child. But the challenge is, how does it come online for you to be aware so that you are able to pick out your blind spots and automatic processes without then having that just dump on the child. I mean, that's one part, but I think then we also need to think about like the co-parent and the co-partner.
Yes, of course.
Like the other aspect of it, well, in my case, a father, a male, right? I think they come with their own baggage as well, in the sense where they might not necessarily have that role modeling from their own parents in terms of how fathers should be like.
Because I really do think that, at least culturally speaking, for our past generations, fathers will let off the hook a lot.
Yeah.
They're like, no responsibility. All you have to do is go earn money.
Go focus on the work
and
part,
then
right?
if you're bored with your wife not giving you enough attention, you get a second wife.
Yeah.
I have a half uncle and a half aunt out there, so like, you know.
Yeah.
It's that really old school Chinese style thing of doing things. My great grandfather had 4 wives.
Wow.
One ran away.
Yeah. Okay.
Go figure.
Okay. Yeah.
Spilling all the Corona history tea.
I mean, so then whatever they experience, they see their own like male father figures, you know, and then also to some extent seeing how women respond and behave around men as well. And I would like to think that most people, when they start off wanting children, or they start off in a relationship, in an interaction for that matter, they don't start off wanting to hurt the other person.
God, I hope not, yeah.
Right? But you know, this kind of things, they are just very unconscious. They just come out, and as much as they might have the good intention that, you know, I want to be there to parent my child, to support my wife, etc. The fact is that they might not know the knowledge.
Oh, it's one of those things where they're very confident up until the point where the confidence fails, because it's like you have a plan until you meet the problem.
Yes.
And then it's like, oh.
And we talk about how the theory and the reality is different, right? So you have the good intention, but how do you actually translate that? You know, like if you have not seen that before, and now you have to just pluck it out of thin air, it can be really tough. And sometimes for us women, I think we may unknowingly also reinforce the idea that, hey, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, just leave it to me.
Yeah.
And then over time, it forms this
divide.
Like,
But it's
maybe
very bad for everybody,
resentment,
'cause everyone
and
should
then
be.
helplessness on the other hand. You know, that there are so many struggles to work through, that sort of thing. Yeah.
No, I get that. I get that totally. Because it's weird. Everybody, it goes back to that cultural practice of child rearing. That actually it should be. It doesn't matter what gender you are. Like, of course, the mom is mom, but everyone else should still be helping, regardless of gender. You should take care of the kids. So Nathan, my partner, who I've been together with for 6 years, and I'm also getting married to next year. No, don't get me wrong. I'm really excited about this. It's just stress, wedding stress. So he was raised around a lot of his younger cousins. Like, so he had maybe like 3 or 4 or 5 children running around when he was a kid. So he had a very strong idea of like how to take care of kids, even when he was younger. And even now, when he goes to a gathering and there's a young child, he's so good with them. I'm like, and it does something to my ovaries. I don't know, it's really a thing. Like when you hit your 30s, sometimes your ovaries are just like, hey, you have no time for that. I look at him with a kid, I'm like, maybe. No. But I see him and how he is with children because of the experience he had growing up. And then my experience is that I was part of the youngest. I'm one of the youngest in my generation. So I don't have a lot of younger children around me. Now different. Now, of course, my cousins are having kids. But like when I see a baby versus when Nathan sees a baby, he's so natural. Just, easy. Me, I'm like, baby. This is not because if you're a woman that you're naturally like better inclined towards baby care. Because like it's very obvious with me and Nathan, he's better at it than I am. Like I'm better at entertaining them past 5 years old.
Yes.
Like under a certain age, it's like here, Nathan, you take care of the baby.
Yeah, I also find it easier to play with my children when they
Yeah,
are
a bit older.
able to talk and all these things. I
Yeah.
kind of find it like I'm not really sure how to interact with a baby when they are like
yeah. So it's really like I genuinely wish that, and this is one of those big things that I will get on a soapbox and yell about. Like I genuinely wish that in our schools, besides the stupidity of abstinence-only education, sex education, I really wish that children would. I wish we got in there early into children and told them that all this sex is nonsense. It doesn't matter what equipment you're born with. You have an ability and a responsibility to care for those who are weaker and than you, like children. Like this is how you should respond to like a younger person. It doesn't matter what equipment you have. Like you have the ability to care regardless of your gender. Because so much of this is written into us so young. Boys must be explorers, fighters, warriors. Girls must be caretakers, nurturers, nurses, teachers. To have this kind of weird sexist divide implemented so young in our lives is really harmful to the next generation, because like you're telling kids that because you're born with this equipment, you have to be like this. And because you're born with this, you have to interact like this. If you show compassion, you're unmanly. If you don't show compassion, you're not feminine. I really wish sex education included that aspect of like, if you have kids, I mean, they would have to stop talking about abstinence before they could even talk about that. But I really wish sex education was better in that sense. Not even just like the aspects of having sex as a theory for children who are completely unaware of it, but also this aspect of who you are in response to your gender, because so much of it is wrapped up in this idea of who is responsible for the child, who is responsible for this aspect of the child. If we could just have a good conversation about that years earlier and build that dialogue earlier, I just feel like it would make for healthier parents overall. Because like I feel like so many fathers get frustrated with the fact that they don't know automatically what they're supposed to be doing. They think that they hold the baby, then automatically they'll know. Or even some mothers, like it's not automatic. It's childbearing is a skill. It's very much a skill that a society has as well as a family has.
So from my school, that they inculcated in us this sense of like ideally speaking, we are able to take care of our household, but we are also able to go out and allowed to pursue our aspiration.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, and I think I must say, like unknowingly, that really got into my system. Yes, and I was saying just now that when I became a mom, I found myself like struggling between who am I as a person versus me as a mom and then a child, like kind of like really wanting to hold on to my personal identity and really wanting to say that I can handle this motherhood well, and I'm still able to go full-fledged with my pursuits, and then being confronted with the reality that I'm a human being, there's this constraint of time and energy, right? And really having to struggle through that and see that the idea of being able to take care of the home, being a good mother, wife, and also doing well in work, that ideal is aspirational, but at the same time realizing that it's not about doing all these things at the same time. I think I was kind of I bought into the belief that it is possible to do everything at the same time.
Because it's a very sweet belief.
Yes.
It's a belief that leaves you with all your identity intact. It leaves you with autonomy.
Yes.
Like you can be a mom, like everything else also.
Everything is possible,
but
right?
It's a curse.
Yeah. So that was such a huge pressure on myself. And I must say that the people around me didn't necessarily give me that expectation or that pressure. Like for my own family, I think they just wanted me to be healthy and, to be there for my child. But I think I was placing so much of those pressure on myself as well.
Do you think that pressure also came from a place of wanting to reclaim control of your life?
Oh, for sure. I mean, like we like control, But I think then having a child and then working through, realizing and working through parenting struggles, I started to understand the difference between taking charge and taking control.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Tell me more.
Happy to do so. So taking control is driven out of fear.
Okay.
Right? You are trying to control so that you manage your anxiety, manage your fear, and there's a lot of like placing expectations on yourself, placing expectations on others. It can come with a huge sense of disappointment when these expectations are not met. Taking charge is accepting that sometimes things happen and in spite of everything that happened, you know, you can take charge of how you respond to the situation without necessarily having to engineer a certain outcome, you know, because that controlling process is not very creative. It's quite
also very
limiting.
it's also driven out of fear. So
Yes,
the end
it's
result
very
is always
narrow.
like not ideal.
Yes, and usually it comes with a lot of frustration.
Yes, from other people, from you.
Yes, then taking charge is about like understanding the needs of the situation. So for example, no threat, no danger, and you know, just follow the need of the child. There's no need for you to control. Oh, you got to sit this way, you got to eat this piece of vegetable, that kind of thing. But then
I told you how many times don't touch the floor, it's dirty.
yeah, so
I've seen this, you know, I've literally like, don't touch the wall. How many times I thought, oh my god. I'm like, girl, listening to you stresses me out. I can't imagine being a child.
so that might be that. And like, you know, and many other subtle ways as well. And you know, sometimes we might do it very gracefully too. So it can be. I think all of us, we are prone to some aspect of that.
That's very human.
I know, and you might be appalled when some of these behaviors come out. Like when I see myself doing that, I'm like, okay,
Oh my
you
god,
know,
I'm talking to my mother.
And
That's horrifying.
then there's the taking charge, which is that, okay, in this moment, there is actually real danger, real threat, and there's a need for setting boundaries. I mean, like, you know, you don't allow the child to just eat 10 sweets at one time.
No.
You have to set boundaries.
Stick the
Okay,
finger
that's
in the
more like
electric,
taking charge. Yeah, so learning how to tell the subtle difference between the two, you know.
Because it's like when you're with your kids, so much of it is instinct based. You're like, you see danger and then you act before you realize actually this is an opportunity for the kid to learn that there's danger. Maybe you can.
Yeah.
But in the moment you're like,
so
stop it.
in a moment, right, I'm like holding myself.
Like, don't do it to me.
I was like, because my girl could be so, she's very energetic.
Yeah.
You know, when
Bold.
I really truly sit down and then like I'm like running through things to say, and I realized, they came with so much anger, you know, not nice, you know. I
And
don't
then
know what
by
to
the
say.
time
I
you
just
figure out what
better
to say,
say.
that the moment's over
I
already.
sit there to meditate,
Oh,
seriously.
smart.
I sit there to meditate. I just breathe. You know, I don't have any value addedness to you now. I will just keep myself safe from you.
I'm looking at your
her safe from
posture
me.
of like this and like imagining you watching your child, and I'm viscerally reminded of my mother watching me climb lampposts as a child. Like, because when I was a kid, I was very aerial. Like to the point where when I was 5, I broke my arm. I smashed my elbow monkey barring, and then when it was healed, I went right back to monkey barring. So she would watch me climb like 10-meter tall, maybe 5-meter tall lampposts, because I would just go and I would climb up, and I'd be like, and I come down, and then she would just look at me like this. And I always thought, like, thinking back, wow, she's so cool. And now listening to what you're saying, she was probably freaking out and not knowing what to say.
But did you feel like she was confident in your ability to...
No, she knew I could climb. She'd seen me climb all sorts of things.
That's so powerful to experience as a child.
And just like, I'm like 5 meters above the ground, like 6 meters, like looking down, going like, oh, it's so scary up here, it's so cool. And then I look at my mom and I'm like, okay, I'm safe. And then I come back down. Like, that's what she gave me to like, let me go, you know, because I was a very hyperactive child. I think she even told me one time, you know, Liz, when you were younger, we thought you had ADHD, but you would read books for hours and hours and hours at a time. Like, I would literally just be hyper focused on a book for like 5 hours at a go. And then like, that's why we thought you didn't have ADHD. Of course, now we know that it's part of the symptom. But it reminded me so much of my mother just going, okay, climb her. I just imagining her thinking.
I see my so I'm not like very athletic, so I see my children like zooming on the scooter, right? I'm like, mommy, you see that? I was like, oh, go ahead. Then I look at my husband, I'm like,
but it is scary, of course. Of course it's scary. Like, I cannot imagine. It's like, oh, parents. If there was one thing I would want to know, and taking back from our conversation, and about what I feel about my childhood growing up, is that this idea of compassion and self-compassion is so integral to your functioning as a human being that you have to have that before you even consider things like, do I want children? If you're not capable of providing that compassion to yourself, you shouldn't think about having kids, because you still haven't. You have to protect yourself, put your own oxygen mask on first before you try and provide something so giving and demanding as having a child. Like, I really do think, and even then, if you go through that process of developing self-compassion and you decide at the end, I don't want to have kids, it's me. it's still an incredibly valuable lesson that provides you with energy and compassion and sympathy for yourself and for other people.
I think the point of self-compassion is so important because we often find or we think that we have to choose between ourselves and the other person.
That's not true. Yeah.
And but the thing is, when we know how to care for ourselves, it actually opens up so much more space for us to be able to care for another person as well.
Yeah.
And I think from today's conversation, I just hope that thanks. I just hope that every individual be allowed to honor themselves in a way. It sounds very cliche, right?
No, but it's true.
It should not be a value judgment that because you choose to be a mother or you choose not to be a mother, you choose to get married or you choose not to get married, and then this becomes a value judgment on you. Well,
it's a very superficial judgment.
Everyone, only the person himself or herself knows what is happening to them, and only the person is able to answer the question of what is the most meaningful, valuable to themselves, and they are allowed to make their own decisions as long as they are not hurting other people and not hurting themselves. So then that I just wish that people feel like there's this freedom for them to be able to honor their own strengths, and when they do that, they just it's really a process of them being self-compassionate. And if we are able to extend grace to people for making choices in this way, and I also I always like to add in that line of that they are not hurting people, they are not hurting themselves. If everyone could try their best to do that, right, then there's so much compassion to go around to care for the community as well.
One could hope. One could really hope. Yeah.
Yes.
I do hope that more people consider that as a viable option as well, that they don't have to become immediately a wife or homemaker or like a business. Like they can just view themselves compassionately and then decide, this is what I want to do with all of this that I have managed to build for myself.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to our chat.
Yeah, it's been really nice. Thank you so much for all of that. Well, come and watch the 4th Trimester. I'll be playing Anne. It's playing 20th to 30th November at the Drama Center Level 3. See you there.